Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to new Eurasia Forum Seoul 2015. This is a very exciting event. The theme of connectivity and information technology could not be more important, not just for the future development of Eurasia, but for Europe and the rest of the world. I was honored to be asked by Mr. Hee Chul-young and the Korea International Trade Association to address this event. As European Data Protection Supervisor, the independent authority established at the European Union level, I am determined to improve Europe's engagement with our international partners on digital opportunities, data protection and privacy. Unfortunately, this is an especially busy period before the summer, in which we are seeking to finalize Europe's new rules on data protection. So I'm afraid that I've been unable to join you in person. Nevertheless, I'm delighted to be able to speak to you for a few moments about what we are doing in Europe in this area. The European Union's institutions, the European Parliament, Council of Ministers and the European Commission have now begun negotiations on a new general data protection regulation. It has been a marathon process, which started in January 2012. At the same time, we are in the middle of a number of tracks for determining rules and standards for personal data flows between the EU and other third countries, notably the US and Asian countries. Let me begin with a few words about my role. I am 7 months into my mandate. My institution was established 10 years ago by a regulation which sets the specific rules for personal data processing by the 70 separate European Union institutions and bodies. My role is firstly to supervise these bodies and to ensure they handle personal information lawfully. And secondly, to advise them on policies which are relevant for fundamental rights, in particular the rights to privacy and to data protection. For that second task, I work very closely with the Parliament, Council, Commission to improve the quality of existing and prospective laws. My organization shares the DNA of the data protection and privacy enforcement authorities in European countries and around the world. Accordingly, a third task for us is to cooperate with national data protection authorities in the European Union bilaterally and through existing boards. I was appointed by the European Parliament and Council with a clear mandate to develop a vision for the EU as global leader on questions of privacy and data protection. What questions are raised by the technological developments around us? Europe's existing rules on data protection were adopted in 1995. In 1994, there was a first online transaction. It was a pizza from Pizza Hut in the US. 1995 was a watershed year for technology. The removal of the last restrictions on the use of the internet to carry commercial traffic, NSFNet decommissioned and replaced by backbones operated by several commercial ISPs. 10,000 websites and 2 million computers connected to the internet. The second generation mobile phone systems was still emerging, using digital instead of analog transmission. And more people started using mobile phones thanks to the advent of prepaid services. 20 years later, there are 45 billion web pages and roughly 3 billion web users. We find ourselves in the global village predicted by Canadian philosopher of communication Marshall McLuhan. The world has been contracted into a village by electric technology and the instantaneous movement of information from everywhere to everywhere all the time. Data moves around via mobile devices, phone mainly, but increasingly with other things that can be worn on your person, watches, smartband, glasses. Our data is an asset for big tech companies and monetized. WhatsApp, with its nearly 1 billion users, a company with about the size and budget of my institution, was valued at $18 billion by Facebook when they merged last year. There are imbalances in the market with questions of fairness, of competition and consumer protection. Meanwhile, the Snowden revelation of 2013 indicated that the Internet has been exploited to create a global surveillance state. My institution, the EDPS, would like to offer you a strategic, holistic response to these trends and developments. And that is why, in March this year, I published a strategy for my mandate in the period 2015-2019. The document was entitled Leading by Example, and I would encourage you to have a look at it on our website. What is our strategy? First, we need to empower the individual to take control on their own information in the digital age. We recognize the benefits for individuals and societies of technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics and social media. But we need to address the imbalance of power between corporations and government on the one hand and the individual on the other. The Industrial Revolution moved from a concentration of machinery in the hands of the producer to putting the power of machines in the hands of consumers. Cars, fridges, televisions, computers, mobile devices. That's why we want to promote big data accountability. We are offering to work with companies to find ways of addressing the concerns that individuals. And this is why EDPS has been at the forefront of the discussion for a more coherent application of rules on data protection, consumer protection and antitrust. Second, we need global bridges to protect the personal data and privacy of the individuals facing borderless challenges. There are initiatives for data protection reform all over the world, in Brazil, Japan, the review of Council of Europe Convention 108/1981 and the OECD guidelines. In fact, there are now at least 109 countries with data protection laws. And for the first time, though European countries are in the minority, they can lead by example on a basis of a future-oriented legal framework, robust enough to face with the big data world we live in. That means the European Union must focus with its partners on common values. Third, we need a modern, easy-to-understand regulatory framework for handling personal information which applies consistently to everyone and which is properly enforced. I mean that we need to find new ways for applying data protection principles to the latest technology, be they big data, the Internet of Things, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, drones or robotics. We need to place the individual more firmly at the heart of technological development through transparency, user control and accountability. In the European Union, the new data protection regulation is just the beginning. We need to mainstream the rights of the individual throughout all policies, whether on law and order, financial services regulation, exchange of health data or competition or consumer law. On each of these fronts, my independent institution, the EDPS, will engage proactively and honestly. And we will broaden the debate beyond politicians, privacy, lawyers and regulators. There is still a lot to play for in the European Union data protection reform, from definitions to scope, from individual rights such as the right to be forgotten and data portability, to purpose limitation, the consistency mechanism, data transfers, red tape and burdens, but also sanctions. But time is running out. As advisor to the institutions, I will shortly publish a position paper highlighting the main issues from a fundamental rights perspective, but I will also offer pragmatic suggestions for resolving the differences between the institutions. I will offer suggestions for making the rules simpler and easier to comply with. I'm confident they could inspire you as well in your efforts on connectivity and ICT. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Internet has connected the whole planet. In the same way, we need bridges which protect the interests of the individual between Europe, Asia and all regions. I'm sure that at today's new Eurasia Forum, you are going to have some fascinating discussions with new and intelligent insights. Europe has much to learn from your approaches to these questions, and I look forward to continuing our conversation over the years to come. My best wishes to you for a fruitful and enjoyable forum. Thank you very much for your attention.